Welcome to the road to 1 million US dollars. Let's get right into the Bitcoin chart for today, starting on this 1 day time frame for Bitcoin, because currently at first glance, it looks like we are breaking out from this descending line of resistance. However, this is not actually confirmed a breakout yet, so I would tell you guys to be a little bit cautious. So let's dive deeper into this. First of all, we have very low volume on the daily time frame here. So typically on a breakout, you would see a big spike in volume here. Now, for example, if we see that big spike tomorrow, then yes, more likely this will be an actual breakout, because at that point we would have confirmed candle closes and a big spike in volume. So yes, then it is more likely that this is an actual breakout. One last thing you could be looking out for here in the charts is to see something like this, a move back down, retesting this previous line of resistance and flipping it into a level of support. So bouncing off of there, and then again, more likely we would be heading back up to the upside. Now zooming into the short term for Bitcoin. Right now, you can see that we are trading above the 0.5 Fibonacci level, sitting at about 59.5K. And yes, so long as we hold this as a level of support, then I am expecting the price to move higher. However, at the same time, if you now see Bitcoin losing this as a level of support, then more likely we would be heading further to the downside. For example, you could look towards this 0.382 Fibonacci level sitting at 57,000 US dollars as a level of support in the short term here. Now, in terms of resistance to the upside for these Fibonacci levels, you have the Fibonacci golden pocket sitting between the 0.618 and the 0.65 level, so between 62K and 62.7K, and I am expecting this to be a strong level of resistance. So yes, if you see a breakout above this level here at 62.7K, then more likely we will be heading up higher, for example, to this 0.786 level sitting at about 65.6K. Now, besides that, going back to this daily time frame here, taking a look at these bigger support and resistance levels for Bitcoin. Right now, Bitcoin is trading inside this big level of resistance, sitting from 60,000 all the way up to 62.4K. So in these areas of resistance, it is important to pay attention to the price action, because you can get a rejection back to the downside. Similar to what you saw over here, we pumped right into this level of resistance and then got a rejection back down. However, in the case that you actually see a breakout above this previous high here, so above about 62.4K, but again, pay attention to that level at 62.7K, that Fibonacci golden pocket, then likely we would be heading up to this next level of resistance above that, sitting from 65 all the way up to 66,000 US dollars for the Bitcoin price. So it is still possible to get a rejection back down here. And if that actually happens, then you could look for support in this big level right here, sitting from 58 all the way down to 56,000 US dollars for the Bitcoin price. Now, one really important thing that usually I would cover at the start of the video, but I already talked about it yesterday, is this CME Gap sitting at 60,000 US dollars for the Bitcoin price. Now, in the case that you don't know, typically over 90% of CME gaps tend to get filled, meaning that the Bitcoin price will trade up to this level or somewhere quite close to it. However, as I'm recording this, the Bitcoin price is basically trading right on top of this CME Gap. And if this continues for the next couple hours or so, then there will be either a very small CME gap or no CME gap at all, because the price will just fill it straight away and then make its move either to the upside or to the downside. So therefore, this is something important to pay attention to actually see if we are going to get a CME gap or not. But just like I said yesterday, I am expecting this CME gap to fill quite quickly because the price is trading so close to it. Next up, taking a look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat maps for today. First of all, on this 3-day time frame. And before I dive into it here, let me explain what this is in the case that you are new to the channel here. Typically, the Bitcoin price gets attracted to where there is the most liquidity on this chart. So where there are the most yellow areas on this chart. And in this case, on the 3-day time frame, it is to the upside at about 60.5K. So yes, I do think it is likely that we are going to take out this level of liquidity sometime soon. Now, as you can see right here as well, in yesterday's video, I talked about this big level of liquidity sitting at about 60,000 US dollars. And after I posted that video, we took out this big level of liquidity quite quickly after that. So that is a good thing to see. Now, yes, we do have most of the liquidity to the upside in this case, but there is also quite a bit of liquidity to the downside, as low as about 56 to 57,000 US dollars for the Bitcoin price. And there's also quite a bit of liquidity at about 58.7K. So if you start seeing some rejections in the charts here and the technical analysis pointing towards the downside, then you could look towards some of these big levels of liquidity to the downside as a potential price target. But that is, of course, not financial advice. I'm simply telling you what I see in the charts, and you can do with that information what you like. Now, if we zoom out to the 1 week time frame, you can see that again we took out that big level of liquidity at about 60,000 US dollars. There is still some liquidity left to the upside here, but actually most of the liquidity on this 1 week time frame is sitting at about 62,000 US dollars for the Bitcoin price. Are we going to see the Bitcoin price taking out this big level of liquidity in the following week? I think a clear tell for this will be if we start breaking some of the levels of resistance to the upside that I mentioned earlier on in this video, where again, if you start to see those levels of resistance break, then we could be pointing towards this 62/62.1K level here as a first potential price target. However, do keep in mind that we also again have this liquidity to the downside, and on this 1 week time frame, most of the liquidity to the downside is sitting at about 55.8K, so about 56,000 US dollars. Now you might be saying, Million, if we have liquidity to the upside and to the downside, what can we actually take away from these liquidation heat maps? And I would simply answer to that, pay attention to the actual technical analysis, like for example, what I talked about earlier in this video, or you do your own analysis and then you actually use these liquidation heat maps as another indicator in your analysis to use as confluence. So that is what I'm personally doing as well. Either way, this has been today's market update. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'm really trying to reach 5,000 subscribers and currently we're almost at 4,500. So if you can help me with that goal by subscribing, I would really appreciate it. Regardless, if you do end up subscribing or not, thank you for watching once again, and I will see you tomorrow in the next one.